The air recycler was failing again, and with it, my patience. I twisted the torque wrench harder than necessary, sweat beading along my temples despite the station's temperature regulation. Helix-7 wasn't supposed to be this temperamental, but 6 months into my assignment, I'd learned that space stations had personalities, and this one was particularly moody. "You are forcing it." The voice came from behind me, smooth as silk sliding over glass, with that distinctive harmonic undertone that marked her as Siolean. I didn't need to turn around to know it was Rhael. I'd felt her presence the moment she entered the maintenance bay, like a shift in atmospheric pressure that had nothing to do with the failing recycler. For 3 weeks now, we'd been orbiting each other, caught in a gravitational pull neither of us acknowledged out loud. "The coupling is stripped," I replied, keeping my focus on the machinery. "Safer that way. Sometimes you have to force things. That is how humans break everything they touch." She moved closer. I could hear the whisper of her movement suit, that liquid silver material that seemed to flow over Siolean's skin like mercury. "You should try feeling instead of forcing." My hands stilled on the wrench. The double meaning wasn't lost on me, and the heat that rushed through my chest had nothing to do with exertion. I finally turned to face her. Rhael stood 3 feet away, her skin that impossible shade of violet that deepened to indigo at her temples and along her collarbone. Her eyes were large, luminous amber with flecks of gold that caught the overhead lighting. The Sioleans called them star-touched eyes, and looking into them felt like falling into a nebula. Her hair, if you could call it that, was actually thousands of fine bioluminescent strands that shifted from deep purple to soft blue depending on her mood. Right now, they pulsed with a warm rose gold. "You're monitoring my work again," I said, aiming for casual and missing by a mile. My voice came out rougher than intended. "Someone must ensure you do not destroy our only air supply." Her lips curved slightly. Sioleans didn't smile the way humans did, but that small upturn meant amusement. Or interest. I'd been studying the difference obsessively. "Besides, you asked for assistance with the diagnostic." I had. 3 hours ago, through official channels, maintaining every professional boundary. Yet here we were, alone in a maintenance bay at the end of Gamma shift, when the station was at its quietest. The diagnostic, yes. I set down the wrench, wiping my palms on my work suit. "Pull up the thermal imaging." She moved to the console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface with practiced grace. Sioleans were natural navigators, their nervous systems wired to process spatial data faster than human brains could manage. Rhael was one of the best, assigned to Helix-7 to map the gravitational anomalies in the binary system we orbited. We'd been paired on 3 projects now, and each one felt like playing with plasma fire. "There." She gestured to the screen, leaning forward. The movement brought her closer, close enough that I caught her scent. Sioleans didn't sweat like humans, but they had their own chemistry, something like ozone and night-blooming flowers, sharp and sweet all at once. I forced myself to focus on the thermal display. Red patterns bloomed across the screen, showing heat concentration in all the wrong places. "That's not mechanical failure." "No." Her voice dropped lower. "Sabotage." The word hung between us like a charged particle. Station Helix-7 was a joint human-Siolean research facility, born from the Treaty of 7 Stars, a fragile alliance that had ended decades of Cold War. Not everyone was happy about it. There were factions on both sides who saw cooperation as betrayal. "We need to report this," I said, already reaching for my comm unit. Her hand caught my wrist. The touch sent electricity racing up my arm, and I froze. Siolean skin was warmer than human, almost feverish, and her fingers were longer, more delicate, but the grip was firm. "Wait." Those amber eyes locked onto mine. "If we report now, they will shut down the entire research wing. Evacuate all personnel. The work we have done, the data we have collected, it will all be quarantined. People could get hurt. I can reroute the systems. Buy us time to find who did this before they try again." She hadn't released my wrist. "But I need your help." This was dangerous territory, and not just because of the sabotage. Going off protocol, working outside official channels, it could cost us both our positions. But standing there, feeling the heat of her touch seeping through my skin, watching those luminescent strands in her hair pulse faster, I knew I was already in dangerous territory. "How much time?" I asked. 72 hours. Maybe less. And if we're caught operating without authorization? Then we face the consequences together. Her thumb brushed against the inside of my wrist. Whether intentional or not, I couldn't tell. "Unless you are afraid." The challenge in her voice sparked something in my chest. "I've been afraid since the day I met you." The words escaped before I could stop them. Honest. Raw. Stupid. Her luminescent strands flared bright gold for just a second before she controlled the reaction. Among Sioleans, that flash meant surprise, pleasure, or both. "You hide it well." "So do you." I turned my hand over, our palms nearly touching. "Your strands pulse warmer whenever I'm near. Did you think I wouldn't notice? I thought you were being polite by ignoring it." Her voice had gone soft, almost vulnerable. Humans are skilled at pretending not to see. We're also skilled at lying to ourselves. I closed the distance between us by an inch, nothing more, but it felt like crossing a canyon. "Tell me we're just talking about the sabotage." "We are not." Her free hand came up, hovering near my face but not quite touching. "This is forbidden. You know this." "I know." My heart was hammering so hard I was certain she could hear it. Fraternization between species on joint assignments. Career suicide. At minimum. Her fingers finally made contact, tracing the line of my jaw with feather-like pressure. They say humans and Sioleans cannot truly bond. That our biology, our psychology, too different. They say a lot of things. I leaned into her touch without meaning to. "What do you say?" Her answer was to close the final distance between us. The kiss was different than anything I'd experienced. Her lips were softer, warmer, and there was a subtle electric tingle where our skin met, like static discharge but sweeter. Her luminescent strands wrapped around my shoulders, pulsing with waves of gold and rose, and I understood suddenly that this was part of how Sioleans expressed emotion, through light and touch combined. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer. She made a sound, something between a sigh and a hum that resonated in her chest, and I felt it vibrate through me. For those few seconds, the station disappeared. The sabotage, the regulations, the political tensions, none of it mattered against the reality of her body pressed against mine. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, her eyes had darkened to deep copper, and her strands were pulsing so rapidly they looked like captured sunlight. "This cannot happen again," she whispered, but her hands were still on my shoulders, her fingers digging in like she was afraid to let go. "I know." I rested my forehead against hers, a gesture I'd learned was intimate for Sioleans. 72 hours to solve the sabotage. "Yes." "And then?" She pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. "And then we decide what we are willing to risk." The alarm on my comm unit shattered the moment. Another system failing, this time in Section Delta. We had work to do, mysteries to solve, and very little time to do it. But as we headed toward the exit, her hand brushed mine, fingers tangling for just a second, a promise wrapped in electricity. I was already burning for what came next. The maintenance tunnel was barely wide enough for one person, let alone two, but Rhael insisted we travel together. Security protocols after the second sabotage attempt meant paired assignments for all critical system checks. I tried to tell myself that's why my pulse was racing, why every accidental brush of her shoulder against mine felt like touching a live wire. I was lying to myself. Again. "The access panel should be 15 meters ahead," Rhael said, her voice slightly distorted through the comm in our helmets. We were in one of the unpressurized sections, following a trail of damaged conduits that led deeper into the station's skeleton than either of us had ventured before. 48 hours had passed since our kiss in the maintenance bay. 48 hours of stolen glances during briefings, of working side by side with careful professional distance, of lying awake in my quarters remembering the feel of her luminescent strands wrapping around me. We hadn't been alone since that moment, and the tension was building like pressure in a sealed chamber. "Got it," I replied, training my helmet light on the panel. It had been forced open, recently. The metal edges were still bright where something had pried them back. Someone was here. Within the last 6 hours. Rhael moved beside me, running her scanner over the damage. Even through our suits, I was aware of her proximity. They accessed the navigation relay. My stomach dropped. That controls our positioning in the binary system. Yes. Her amber eyes met mine through our helmet visors. If someone altered the navigation protocols, they could destabilize our orbit. Send us into one of the stars. How long would we have? Once the changes activate, maybe 20 minutes before we cross the point of no return. She pulled up a holographic display from her scanner. But look at this. The access codes used were from the Siolean delegation. I studied the data, my mind racing. That doesn't mean it was one of your people. Codes can be stolen. Yes, but it means the investigation will focus on us first. Her voice was tight with frustration. There are already whispers that Sioleans want this station to fail, that we sabotage human efforts while pretending to cooperate. That's political garbage. I reached out without thinking, my gloved hand covering hers. Even through the thick material, I felt the warmth. No one who works with you would believe that. You would be surprised what people believe when fear speaks louder than reason. She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through mine. The gesture felt monumental in the confined space. Tessa, if this continues, if they cannot find who is responsible, the treaty will collapse. Everything we have worked for, destroyed. The use of my first name made my heart stutter. We'd been so careful to maintain formality, to keep that professional distance even as everything inside me screamed to close the gap. Then we find them first, I said. We have the evidence, we just need to follow it. There is more. She pulled up another display. I found something in the station's communication logs. Encrypted transmissions sent to an unknown location, always during gamma shift when crew is minimal. The last transmission was sent from the research wing, Section 7. That's near the quantum observation labs. My mind worked through the implications. And right next to private quarters. Including mine. Her eyes held mine. Tessa, they may think I am involved. If they trace these transmissions back to my location, I could be arrested, sent back to Siolean space in disgrace. The fear in her voice cut through me. We'll prove you're innocent. Will we? She released my hand, turning away as much as the narrow tunnel allowed. Or will you decide that protecting your career matters more than trusting an alien you have known for less than 2 months? The words stung because they hit close to a truth I'd been wrestling with. But standing there, watching her luminescent strands pulse with anxious blue light even through her suit, I realized something had already been decided, probably the moment I first saw her. I trust you, I said quietly. More than I trust myself right now. She turned back, and even through the helmet visor, I could see the surprise in her expression. Why? Because I've watched you work. I've seen how you care about this station, about the research, about building something better than the war our parents fought. I moved closer. And because when you touch me, I feel more alive than I have in years. That's not something I'm willing to give up. Not for fear, not for protocol, not for anything. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then she reached up, her gloved hand touching the side of my helmet. When we return to the pressurized section, come to my quarters. We need to examine the communication logs more closely, and I have access codes that will help. The professional excuse was thin, almost laughable. We both knew what she was really asking. That's against regulations, I said, testing the waters. Yes. Her voice dropped lower. It is. The journey back through the tunnel felt like it took hours instead of minutes. Every step was weighted with anticipation, with the knowledge that we were about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The maintenance bay airlock cycled slowly, and as soon as we were through, helmets off, breathing recycled station air, Rhael took my hand and pulled me toward the residential section. Her quarters were larger than mine, decorated with Siolean artifacts, soft fabrics in shades of purple and blue, and plants that glowed faintly in the dimmed lighting. She closed the door behind us, engaging the privacy lock. "The logs," I started, but she was already moving toward me. "Later," she said, and her luminescent strands were flaring gold, bright and beautiful. "I need this first. I need to know this is real before everything falls apart." I met her halfway, and this kiss was different from the first. More urgent, more desperate, like we were trying to pack a lifetime into stolen moments. Her hands were in my hair, mine were pulling her closer, and we stumbled backward until I hit the wall. She pressed against me, and I could feel every line of her body through our work suits. "Tessa," she breathed against my mouth, and hearing my name in that voice nearly undid me. I pulled back just enough to look at her. "Tell me what you want." "I want to stop being afraid." Her amber eyes were molten. "I want to stop pretending that regulations matter more than this. I want one night where we do not have to hide. One night." I traced the line of her jaw, feeling her pulse jumping under my fingertips. "That's all. I am trying to be realistic." But her voice shook. "Tomorrow, we may be caught. The investigation may turn on us. Everything could end. Then we make tonight count." I kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. "And tomorrow, we fight for the right to have more." She pulled me toward the sleeping platform, and we sank down together, a tangle of limbs and desperate touches. Her work suit had a different closure system than mine, and I fumbled with it until she laughed, a sound like wind chimes, and helped me. When the fabric finally parted, revealing violet skin that seemed to glow in the dim light, I forgot how to breathe. "You are staring," she murmured, but there was pleasure in her voice. "You're beautiful." I traced patterns on her shoulder, watching her luminescent strands pulse and wave in response to my touch. "I've wanted to tell you that since the first day." "I know." She was working on my suit now, more skilled with the fastenings. "Your eyes reveal everything, Tessa. Humans think they are so controlled, but your emotions spill out through your gaze." When my suit joined hers on the floor, she pulled me down, and the feel of her skin against mine was electric, warm, and impossibly soft. We explored each other slowly, learning the topography of different biology, finding where touch made her gasp, where pressure made me arch. Her strands wrapped around my arms, my shoulders, pulsing with waves of color that seemed to sync with my heartbeat. "Is this okay?" I asked, always checking, always making sure. "More than okay." She pulled me closer, her lips finding my neck. "Do not stop." Time became meaningless. There was only sensation, only the dance of light and shadow, only the sounds we made together. When we finally collapsed, breathless and tangled together, her strands wrapped around us both like a luminous cocoon. "I do not want morning to come," she whispered against my shoulder. "Then we'll stay in this moment." I kissed the top of her head, breathing in that ozone and flower scent. "As long as we can." But morning came anyway, announced by an urgent message on her comm unit. Station Director Voss wanted us both in his office immediately. Someone had found evidence of the sabotage, and they had questions about our unauthorized investigation. We dressed quickly, stealing glances, fingers brushing as we moved around each other. At the door, she caught my hand. "Whatever happens," she said, "I do not regret this." "Neither do I." I squeezed her fingers. "We face this together." The walk to Voss's office felt like a march to execution. But when we arrived, we weren't alone. 3 other crew members stood there, all looking equally nervous. And on the director's screen was surveillance footage showing someone in a stolen Siolean suit accessing the very systems we'd been investigating. "This individual," Voss said, "has been identified as Lieutenant Crane from the Human Security Division. He was part of an extremist group trying to sabotage the treaty." Relief flooded through me, but it was short-lived. "However," Voss continued, his eyes moving between Rhael and me, "we also have footage of you two operating outside protocols, accessing restricted areas without authorization, and..." He paused, delicate, engaging in prohibited fraternization. My stomach dropped. Beside me, Rhael stood rigid. "You found the saboteur," she said, her voice steady despite everything. Does that not matter more than protocol violations? It matters. Voss leaned back in his chair. Which is why I'm not recommending termination. But there will be consequences. Transfer requests for both of you, separation of at least 6 months, and formal reprimands in your files. 6 months. The words hit like a physical blow. I just found her, and now they were taking her away. Unless, Voss continued, and something in his tone made me look up, you're willing to become part of a new program. We're establishing mixed-species teams to work in deep space, studying phenomena that require both human and Siolean expertise. It's dangerous, isolated, and will require complete trust between partners. He let that hang in the air. Are you offering us an assignment? I asked carefully. I'm offering you a choice. His expression softened slightly. Break protocol and face separation, or take your partnership somewhere where the rules are different, where what you've built might actually be valuable. Rhael's hand found mine under the desk. When do we leave? The transport ship Meridian was smaller than I expected, designed for a crew of 4 but modified for 2. Rhael and I spent 3 weeks prepping for the mission, enduring endless briefings about the quantum anomaly we'd be studying, the isolation we'd face, the risks that came with being the first official mixed-species deep space team. They didn't mention how terrifying it would be to leave everything familiar behind, or how every moment felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. Final systems check complete, I said into my headset, running through the departure protocols for the 3rd time. We were docked at the far end of Helix-7, ready to launch toward the edge of charted space where our anomaly pulsed like a beacon. Navigation locked, Rhael confirmed from her station. Her luminescent strands were a calm blue, focused, professional. We'd maintained careful distance over the past weeks, too aware of the eyes watching us, judging whether this experiment would succeed or become another reason to keep species separated. Director Voss appeared on our main screen. You're cleared for departure. Your mission parameters are loaded. But remember, out there, you'll be making your own decisions. Trust your partner, trust yourselves, and check in when you can. Understood, I replied. The connection cut, and suddenly it was just us, the ship, and the vast emptiness ahead. I initiated the launch sequence, feeling the familiar vibration as engines powered up. Rhael's hands danced over her navigation console, her natural gift for spatial calculations making adjustments I couldn't see but trusted implicitly. Separation in 10 seconds, I announced. The docking clamps released, and we drifted away from Helix-7, from safety, from the world that had tried to keep us apart. For a moment, I looked back at the station growing smaller in the viewport, wondering if we were making the right choice. Tessa. Rhael's voice pulled my attention. Engage primary thrust. I did, and the Meridian surged forward, leaving the binary stars behind. The acceleration pressed us back into our seats, and then we were through, settling into the steady burn that would carry us to our destination. 3 weeks until we reach the anomaly, Rhael said, pulling off her headset. What do we do with all that time? The question was innocent enough, but the way she looked at me wasn't. Her strands were starting to pulse warmer colors, gold bleeding into the blue. We could review the mission data, I offered, unfastening my own restraints. Run simulations. We could. She stood, moving across the small bridge until she was beside my chair. Or we could acknowledge that we are finally alone, with no one watching, no protocols to follow except our own. I looked up at her, this beautiful alien woman who'd somehow become my entire world. You're suggesting we break more rules. I'm suggesting we make our own. She held out her hand. Come. I took it, letting her pull me up, and she led me through the narrow corridor to the living quarters. The space was compact, designed for efficiency, but someone had made an effort. There were soft fabrics, adjustable lighting, a sleeping platform large enough for 2. They knew, I said, realization dawning. When they designed this ship, they knew. I suspect Director Voss is more understanding than he lets on. Rhael turned to face me, her hands coming up to frame my face. But that does not matter now. What matters is this. Us. I pulled her closer, and the kiss was like coming home and launching into space at the same time. We'd been so careful, so controlled, and now there was nothing holding us back. Her strands wrapped around me, pulsing with brilliant gold, and I lost myself in the sensation of her. We moved to the sleeping platform, taking our time now that we had it. Every touch was a discovery, every sound a revelation. Her skin seemed to glow brighter as we came together, her strands creating patterns of light around us like we were inside a star. "I love you," I whispered against her shoulder, the words escaping before I could think about whether it was too soon, too much. She pulled back to look at me, her amber eyes wide. "Say it again." "I love you." Louder this time, more certain. "I don't care if it's fast or crazy or breaks every rule about how this is supposed to work. I love you." Her strands flared so bright I had to close my eyes for a second, and when I opened them, tears were sliding down her violet cheeks. In Siolean, we say Shulves Kinara. It means, "You are my star in darkness." And you are, Tessa. You have been since the moment you turned around in that maintenance bay. I kissed away her tears, tasting salt and sweetness. Then I'm your star, and you're mine. That's all that matters. We spent the next days learning each other in ways we'd never had time for before. She taught me Siolean phrases, laughed at my terrible pronunciation. I introduced her to human music, watched her strands pulse in time with the rhythms. We worked our shifts, analyzed data, and built a life in the small space of the meridian. When the anomaly finally appeared on our sensors, we were ready. It hung in space like a wound in reality, colors that shouldn't exist swirling in impossible patterns. "It's beautiful," Rhael breathed, her hands moving over the navigation console. "And dangerous. The gravitational shear is worse than projected. Can we get close enough to deploy the sensors?" "Yes, but it will require precision flying. If we drift even a few meters off course, we could be pulled in." "Then we don't drift." I looked at her across the bridge. "Together." She smiled, that Siolean expression I'd learned to read. "Together." We worked in perfect sync, her navigation calculations feeding into my piloting, my adjustments informing her next projections. The ship shuddered as we entered the anomaly's outer field, warnings screaming from every console, but we pushed forward. "Deploying sensors now," I said, launching the probe array. They scattered into the swirling colors, transmitting data faster than we could process. Then everything went wrong. A massive gravitational spike surged from the anomaly's core, catching the meridian like a toy. We tumbled, systems failing, alarms shrieking. I fought the controls, but we were spinning toward the heart of the anomaly. "Rhael, I can't stabilize." "I know." Her voice was eerily calm. "Tessa, listen to me. There is a way out, but it requires using the emergency thrust in a way that was not designed. It could work, or it could tear the ship apart. Do it. If I am wrong, we die." I looked at her, this woman I loved more than my own life. "If you're wrong, we die together. That's enough." Her strands pulsed gold, and she smiled. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." I fired the emergency thrust at the exact angle she called, and the ship screamed in protest. Metal groaned, something exploded in the aft section, but we were moving, pulling away from the anomaly's grip. Slowly, impossibly, we broke free. When we finally cleared the danger zone, drifting in normal space with half our systems offline but alive, we just sat there, shaking. "We did it," I whispered. "We did it." Rhael laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "We should be dead." I unbuckled, crossed to her station, and pulled her into my arms. "But we're not. We're here, we're alive, and we're together." She clung to me, her strands wrapping tight. "I was so afraid. Not of dying, but of losing you." "You won't." I kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "Not now, not ever. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The journey back to Helix-7 took longer with damaged systems, but we didn't mind. We had time, we had each other, and we had data that would change how both species understood quantum phenomena. When we finally docked, Director Voss was waiting with news. The success of our mission had sparked interest across both governments. They wanted to establish more mixed-species teams, more cooperation, more bridges between worlds that had been enemies for too long. You two started something, Voss said, actually smiling. Whether you meant to or not. We just wanted to be together, Rhael replied, her hand in mine. Exactly. He pulled up a document on his screen. Which is why I'm pleased to inform you that the Council has officially revised the fraternization protocols. What you have won't be forbidden anymore. It won't be easy, but it won't be illegal. I looked at Rhael, saw my own joy reflected in her amber eyes. We'd fought for this, bled for this, risked everything for this. There's one more thing, Voss continued. We're offering you a permanent partnership. New missions, deeper space, pushing the boundaries of what we know. You'd be pioneers. Together? I asked. Always together. Rhael squeezed my hand, her strands pulsing with every color imaginable. Yes. We accept. That night, back in our shared quarters, properly assigned this time, we lay tangled together, her strands wrapped around us both like a promise. Did you ever imagine this? She asked quietly. When you first saw me? I imagined wanting you, I admitted. But this, actually having you, building a life together, changing the rules of the universe? That was beyond imagining. We are good at doing the impossible. She kissed my shoulder. It is what we do. Then let's keep doing it. I pulled her closer. For the rest of our lives. Her answer was a pulse of golden light that filled the room, brighter than stars, warmer than suns, a language beyond words that said everything we needed to say. We'd given each other one chance, and we'd meant it. Now we had forever to prove it was worth the risk. The end.